I'm here with Heath Clary, who wrote All It Takes Is Everything You've Got, and it's a year in the life of A&M baseball. He was embedded with the team and got to see the inner workings of Rob Childress, his staff, and what goes into an Aggie baseball season. Heath, thanks so much for taking a few minutes with us. What went into the idea of how you kind of got this ball rolling with the book, and how this idea started initially?
Yeah, so I've always, liked the kind of book that goes inside of a program, a major program. They've written books about NFL teams, Major League Baseball. The first one was a college basketball book about Indiana basketball. And so I've been covering A&M baseball for 3 years, going into my senior year of college. And I was on track to graduate, and so I just wanted a new challenge. I thought A&M baseball was the perfect thing to do. Nobody had really ever gone inside of a major program in college baseball, and A&M is one of the best, as you know. And so I had a decent relationship, a good relationship with the coaches. I asked them if I could do it, and luckily they said yes.
There you go. So what was how would you kind of describe your book if someone was asking you kind of what's the theme, what's the plot of it, what are you diving into when you open up that cover?
I'd say we're diving into a lot of things. First off, just Texas A&M baseball. The Rob Childress era. We're going inside how he coaches. How his staff came together. We do a chapter on just Coach Childress, how he started in the coaching industry, how he moved up the ranks very quickly. We do a chapter on just the way he coaches pitchers. He's one of the best pitching coaches in the country. So you really get inside his pitching mind, his philosophy. Same with on the offense. And in the recruiting is very important in baseball. So you get to learn about how they recruit, all the different aspects of recruiting, and how it's very challenging to manage the lower scholarship limit of 11.7 scholarships. And also you'll get to meet all the players. I try to profile all the major pieces up on the team. So each chapter I kind of highlight one player or coach who's doing well at the time, or who I thought had an interesting story. And so it was cool to see it all come together with all of the inside baseball stuff and all the personal profiles that I included.
How difficult of it was it a sell to the coaching staff to be embedded? And for those of you, I know I was covering the team wall and got to see you down there doing your thing in the dugout and everything, but how embedded were you with the program? How in depth, and what kind of meetings and inside the program access were you given?
Well, luckily it wasn't a very hard sell. Coach Childress, I think, had grown to trust me over the years that I knew him as a student reporter for the Battalion and for TexAgs.com. So I went to the assistant coaches first, Coach Bolton Seeley. They were on board with the idea. They told me the best way to approach Coach Childress about it. And luckily he, considered it for about 5 seconds. And then he said, yeah, this is a cool idea, but you're going to have to be around a lot. And so I basically had no restrictions. I was at every practice, in the dugout for most of the games, home and away. And so I was basically seeing everything. I would go to the games, the home games, in the dugout, and I would listen to everything that was happening, all of the coaches' meetings. So midway through the game, most times Coach Bolt would gather up the hitters, and he would, have an approach meeting and say, you got to change this. Y'all are doing this. I got to stand right behind Coach Childress all season long. In SEC games, he was able to have the walkie-talkie, so I can hear what he's saying to Mikey Honer or whoever was catching. I could hear all of his critiques, all of his pitch calls, all of his suggestions. And every practice I was there. So, before each weekend series in the SEC, he would gather them all up and he would tell them, just coaches, whatever they do, motivational, whatever Coach Childress thought to bring to the table on that week. And I was able to quote it in the book. And so I thought it was pretty cool for the fans who see them on Friday through Sunday and in the midweek to see how exactly that product comes together on the field, what they do in practice, what kind of motivational tactics the coaches use, and that type of stuff.
That's really cool. We don't want to give away too much of the book because we want people to go out and get their own copy. But what was your favorite story that was included in the part of the book, or kind of the Reader's Digest version of maybe one of your favorite parts of the book, or one of your favorite stories that were a part of being embedded with the team?
Well, there's a lot of them. I would say maybe my favorites would be probably the personal profiles on how John Doxakis and Braden Shoemake really came to be elite Division I players. They were both drafted in the first 2 rounds of the draft after that year. So this past draft, they were both in it. And neither one of them were what you would call blue chip recruits or highly sought after out of high school. John Doxakis didn't even throw 90 miles an hour. He threw in the low 80s actually when Coach Seeley saw him first. Braden Shoemake didn't have any colleges after him midway through his high school career. And so it's just cool to see how, it's kind of funny. Right when they got to A&M, they were contributors. And only a few years earlier, no colleges were looking at them. It's kind of fascinating to wrap your head around that. And then also Asa Lacey is an interesting story as well. He had pitched a little bit as a freshman, but in the book, you'll kind of see how he developed into one of the best college pitchers in the country, and he's going to be a top 5 pick coming up. So just seeing all the great players that were on that one team and learning about them as people and players was my favorite part.
What is one part of the team camaraderie that what the players were into and how they got along with each other stood out to you as your favorite? Was there a superstition or an activity or something that really caught your eye or made you laugh or anything like that?
Probably it had to do. They are a very superstitious bunch. Probably, as you know, the offense struggled throughout the year, and so they were always trying to place spells on the bat rack, or they would grab a bat and hit somebody on the helmet with it a bunch of times. Different players would yell at the bat rack to try to, revive the slumbering bats, I think was the idea. And so I got to capture that, and that was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. The process of putting a book together, like you said, you're a guy who's just recently graduated from A&M, and it seems like a big task. How did you go into the process of finding a publisher, getting it published, or getting it printed and putting together what is a really, really well done book for someone who's just right out of school?
Well, yeah, it is a big task, Travis. But luckily, it wasn't. I say it was challenging, but it wasn't really hard because I was just so passionate about the project. So, you might look from the outside and say, "Oh, well, I spent a ton of time being at games, being at practice, being in meetings, and writing." But to me, it was fun, and that's what I was wanting to do at the time. So it was an awesome experience. Luckily, it's a self-published book. Amazon has a great service where you're able to make the cover, which my dad took the picture for that, and I was very happy with the way it turned out, the cover. I think it's a great photo. It really epitomizes the brotherhood that is involved in every college baseball team, especially one like A&M. And so then the cover came together nicely. But most of the difficulty comes with putting the book together with the words. So, trying to figure out, it's kind of like putting the chess pieces together. Like, okay, do I want to profile in this chapter, or how much of the game do I want to focus on, or how many quotes do I want to put in, that type of deal. Because I didn't want to get it too baseball heavy to where the whole thing is just recapping the season. I wanted to keep it interesting, keep those personal profiles, keep some commentary, keep some interviews that I did with other people to keep it fresh and not just a recap of the season. So, putting those chess pieces together was the hardest part, but also the most fun part.
Sure. As a guy, you said you got to go to a lot of the away games and see what A&M did on the road. For an A&M fan who's looking maybe to make a road trip, what was some of your favorite road environments that you got to experience while a part of this project?
Well, I would say LSU. LSU is known to be a great one. It was kind of some bad weather when I was there, when the team was there, and so it wasn't quite as lively as I anticipated. Hoover, Alabama, where they play the SEC tournament, is always very good. And then also at West Virginia in the regional was an incredibly lively atmosphere, especially the game we played West Virginia where Bryce Blom ended up hitting the grand slam. That was a great environment, great crowd level. And it was amazing how the crowd level went from about 100 to 0 after Bryce Blom hit the grand slam to walk it off. So, they always say silencing the crowd, I think, is a cliche that's overused, but when Bryce hit that ball way gone to left center field, it definitely silenced the crowd. And that was, amazing. And I thought I said it well in the book.
Yeah, I'm sure it had to be one of the highlight moments of the season. Was that as jacked up as you saw the team in that moment?
Yeah, it really was. And we were down by 7 or 8 runs. ESPN took us off of the main station and put us just on the ESPN app, because they thought it was over. And it was pretty bleak in the dugout too, but they stayed fighting. They worked some walks. Logan Foster hits a grand slam that's overlooked. Braden Shoemake worked a clutch walk right before Blom. Aaron Walters hadn't gotten an at-bat in several weeks, and he worked a walk right before Shoemake. And then Blom, he got to 3-2, and you felt like he was going to hit it hard. You just didn't know what was going to happen. And right when it left the bat, you could tell it was gone. Chandler Joswalk was warming up in the bullpen out in left field. I think he beat Bryce to home plate. He was sprinting in so fast. And it was really awesome to be there and see the excitement on the players, coaches, and staff.
Mm-hmm. And so for those who are interested in picking up a copy of the book, I know you mentioned your Amazon publishing. What's the way that they can get their hands on a copy of the book?
Yeah, so the best way is to go to heathclary.com, or you can just search it on Amazon, either way. But heathclary.com is where I'd say to go. You can learn more about the book, learn more about me and the project, and definitely buy your copy there. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah. Any more big projects coming up soon? I know this one wrapped up, and you're a guy who's got some big stuff coming up, I would assume.
Yep. So working on another book right now. Don't want to get into any details,
Sure.
but once I plan to continue to write books even as I start my career. So this was a great one to start with. Very happy and thankful that Coach Childress, Coach Seeley, Coach Bolt allowed me to do it. I hope I made them proud with the product. I think I did. And always happy that people are still buying the book.
Sure. Thanks so much, Heath, for giving us a few minutes of your time, and be sure to go check out heathclary.com to pick up your copy.